Let's Podcast alongside Joe Giglio. I'm Joe Ovias inside Eford Studios, downtown Raleigh. Thanks to Empire Properties and thanks to Copiers Plus. Check them out online, copiers-plus.com. I feel like we have to hit up Drew over at Copiers Plus to get a Kyocera scanner in the studio space, because this whole business of taking pictures of your pie charts and then like presenting, we're not experts at document management, Joe.
Okay, no, for real. Do you know why we need Drew? I was in the porta potties at Carter Finley Stadium on Saturday.
Where's this going?
And I saw an advertisement. It was just a printed out ad, and I was like, captive audience, brilliant. Ooh. So we need to print out a picture from our Glamour Studio album cover shot.
Yeah, from Ethan.
With a QR code that says the best sports talk in town. Put it in the porta potty, and people will have their phone. And I'm telling you, man, I need to text you right now.
You know what? That's appropriate for today's show because people talking shit.
They are.
So we might as well put it in the porta, John.
Yeah.
You know, when people talk shit while you're taking a shit, come see us. That's a slogan. Maybe we'll have to workshop that. I'm sure Drew's really appreciative of this when it comes to the Copiers Plus read. Anyway, check them out online at copiers-plus.com.
You'll remember it.
All right, so let's actually talk. There's so much to get into today.
Okay,
and locally,
yes,
between NC State and North Carolina, and shout out to the Carolina Panthers. They finally got their win. The Carolina Hurricanes, maybe they're back on their thing. They're back on their shit. We'll see. But let's actually start with NC State and Clemson, and let's talk about the football field action first.
Okay.
All right.
A lot to like from NC State, actually.
Look, that is a consistency with Dave Doeren squads. They come out of open weeks where when they have to make adjustments, they will make those adjustments. And I think the biggest takeaway for the NC State win is what, Joe?
Clean game after 21 penalties in their 2 ACC losses. They had 2 total for 6 yards.
Yeah.
Didn't get penalized until the end of the third quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Cleaned up all of those mistakes. Okay. Also, they found out, hey, Kevin Concepcion is our best player.
Hey!
We need to continue to give him the ball, and not just every now and then, but give him the ball and let him make plays. He made 2 huge plays in this game to set up 2 of their offensive touchdowns in this game.
Mm-hmm.
So coming off an open date, you identify who your best players are, you get them the ball. Coming off that open date, you figure out what mistakes you can fix, and they fixed them. And then, of course, Peyton Wilson is worth every single dollar they have spent on him in NIL because he's just been outstanding. His pick 6 ultimately ends up being the difference in this game.
What if they made the whole team out of Peyton Wilson's?
They really need to, because his heart, his drive, energy, he's so evident that he's just so all over the place. And
yeah,
it's amazing, really.
He's not going to win. I'd be shocked if he wins ACC Defensive Player of the Year because of State's record, because of the kind of season.
It could be held against you, sure.
It's going to be held against you. But anybody who has watched NC State play this season has to come away going that he's that dude. He really, I know that the idea of he is him is overplayed. I know I'm a 44-year-old man going, he is him. I get all that stuff, but really there's no other way to describe the way Peyton Wilson plays. And you see NC State's defense when he's on the field, and you see NC State's defense when he's off the field.
Yeah.
And things started getting a little squirrely for NC State down the line. Although, to borrow a phrase from you that you used with Commissioner Jim Phillips, is it a feature or a bug? The way NC State goes about these wins is the feature. It's not the bug. Dave wants to win a particular way. They got enough. And I think they tried to squeeze that thing out, and they kind of backed off of taking advantage of Clemson's problems offensively and Cade Klubnik not being able to get the ball out fast enough. And that's ultimately my biggest takeaway.
I was going to say, there's a flip side to this.
Look, man, props to State, because I said on Thursday, I don't know what to make of NC State's year the rest of the way. Not that I think they're going to, because Dave's teams don't quit.
Right.
They don't. They never do. And I was going to be curious to see how it went. So the win in and of itself does not surprise me. But what does surprise me is here we are with Clemson, and you watch them and you go, man, this ain't, I wasn't going to say this isn't your father's Clemson team, because we're not that far removed from when it was. They need guys, man. We talk about talent erasers. And when we see this with Clemson, with Florida State, Keon Coleman's the reason why life was miserable for Wake Forest this past weekend.
Yeah.
Made big boy play after big boy
Michigan
play.
State transfer. Yep.
What the transfer? Where is that on Clemson? Where is that on Clemson? And Dabo's doubling down.
It's tripling down at this point, really.
Leaves you to, it's funny, a question you asked me via text over the weekend. You said, would you rather be NC State fan or Clemson fan at this point? The answer is going to be Clemson fan, because you know what Clemson's done in the last 10 years and NC State hasn't? Oh, I don't know, win 2 national championships and run the league. But
that almost makes it more frustrating.
And it's what makes it even more frustrating is the way Dabo refuses to adapt. And it's when the answer is obvious and the guy in charge refuses to do the obvious thing, you have every right to be pissed off at your head coach. Clemson has no reason to have the talent drain that they've had in a world where NIL matters and the transfer portal matters. You should be able to identify those dudes and bring them to your school because there's a culture there. And instead, you got Dabo saying, hey, man, I guess in a way, we've been debating what is Dave Doeren's big signature win? Well, hell, beating an undefeated Clemson team at home is probably a big deal because they were 7-0 if you think about it, Joe.
You're right.
And actually, they should be 8-0 if you think about it. Take away that Peyton Wilson. Hey, man, that's an 8-0 team. I mean, hey, Clemson should absolutely still be in the running for a New Year's Six bowl game if you think about it, Joe.
There were times where I thought either Matt Canada or Tim Beck was calling Clemson's plays on Saturday. Their best player is their tight end, Jake Browning. Still, I believe he's the only pro on their offense.
Dude.
How many times have you been able to say that about Clemson? Like, normally you look at Clemson and go, okay, there's a pro, there's a guy, there's another guy. They literally have one guy right now who I think will end up playing in the NFL.
Yeah.
And I love Will Shipley, and I hope he's okay because he got bent in half at the goal line, and you never want to see that. And this is the second time now that he's been to NC State. You think you can get away from NC State shit, sir? Oh, no. He's played in Carter Finley now twice as a Clemson Tiger and left hurt in both games and lost both games.
Yeah.
So your whole family graduated from state, but you decided to go to Clemson. So I hope you're okay. Seriously, hope you're okay. But I did note, I took a little note there, like, okay, Wolfblood, this is what happens. You think you can run.
And here's where we are with Clemson right now. And shout out to our guy, Patrick Stevens, over at the Washington Post, who pulled these little fun facts. The Tigers have lost as many conference games this season as they had in the past 6 combined. And they're not going to record a season with double-digit victories for the first time since 2010. Now, that's the current state of Clemson, which actually segues us into why Dave was feeling it after the fact. When you've only beaten Dabo since you've been there 2 times, and when this season has been particularly salty, I mean, we talked about it a couple weeks ago as it relates to
it's a cumulative effect.
Dave Doeren entering the Herb Sendek zone, meaning that the whole point of that conversation we had a couple of weeks ago was about the fan base having already decided how they feel about their head coach. And every win is a shoulder shrug, and every loss is a referendum on the program and what you've built in year 11, Joe. I mean, how many times have we seen it's year 11? But when you're Dave and you've constantly butt your head up against what Clemson's built, and when you get over on them twice in 3 years, no matter how bad they might be, you're going to feel it. And that's what got us.
That's when Salty Dave comes out.
And that's what got us to the post game. So this requires a good bit of context because it took me a little bit of time on Saturday to piece all this stuff together, having come back from Jacob's hockey game.
I'm down in the parking lot. People are like, did you just hear what Doeren said?
Happened?
And I'm like, wait, Steve Smith, the Panther?
Right.
Like, what are you talking about right now?
So Steve Smith was
Panther legend? Ice Up Son?
Ice Up.
Mr. 89? Like, what are we talking about?
Blood and guts, Joe. Blood and guts.
So he's mad at who?
Steve Smith was the guest picker on College Game Day.
On ESPN.
On ESPN.
On a pregame show. Seriously, how many times have you watched Game Day?
I have not watched Game Day at all this year.
No, I'm like, ever.
No, ever
I'm
when I was
like,
younger.
Yeah, like,
yeah, as an adult, I don't watch Game Day.
Who watches Game Day? Like, who's
coaches
like
apparently do. Coaches apparently do.
In the locker room.
So here's Steve Smith on Game Day doing the picks.
And Ryan Day. I shouldn't exclude.
Coaches
it's not like Dave, that's not like Dave's on an island here.
We'll put a pin in that because this is why I have zero issues with what happened. Here's Steve Smith doing the guest picking thing.
They're struggling. They're not the Clemson we've loved over the years. But NC State, unfortunately, they're waiting for basketball to start.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So, all right, a couple things here. I have a question. Do you think Steve Smith got his triangle schools confused?
I kind of sort of do, yeah.
Okay, he's like, yeah, it's Tobacco Road. They play basketball. It's basketball season. Now, that's a joke that's usually used for North Carolina, which, by the way, it's officially basketball season in Chapel Hill, which we'll get to in a second. Herb Street agrees.
Yeah, Herbie.
Herbie
man,
agrees.
He's not getting the Annabelle special from that one.
Okay.
I mean,
So this, so fast forward to the end of the game. I thought nothing of it. It's just Steve Smith, man. It's just Steve Smith. I didn't think anything of it. Clearly, Dave Doeren did. So that was ESPN. This game was on the CW.
right.
Dave does the post
Shouts to
game.
our guys, man.
Dave does the post game. And after he gets done talking about, glory to God and everything else, it's time to turn to the camera and go, Macho Man Randy Savin. Oh, yeah.
Where does that faith come from? What do you see in that locker room on a day-to-day basis?
Heart, spirit, love, perseverance, grit, all the stuff our world needs. And tell Steve Smith in the studio, this ain't a basketball school. He can kiss my ass.
No, I'm thinking, I caught that in real time. I was making notes. I had it on in the background. He said that. I looked up and went, wait a minute. And my first thought was, where's Kevin Keats? Have you texted Kevin Keats?
No.
Did Kevin Keats text Dave Doeren like, hey man, like why do you what am I gonna do with this, man? Has Wes Moore, did he break away from Dallas Cowboys previews for the weekend to see if Dak Prescott's elite or not? Did Wes Moore go, buddy? We've done something you haven't done. We've won the ACC. Come on, man. We're like, what's going on? So Dave, after the game, adds a little bit more context. He does do the whole like all sports matter for NC State. This is from our guy JC, Wolfpack Central. He added more context to what's going on with Steve Smith and what got him to this point.
Yeah, I mean, for a guy that lives in Charlotte, he clearly has got his head faced west to Utah all the time, which, I understand. And no disrespect to him, but he disrespected our program. And I'm not going to let people do that. These kids have worked their butt off. We've won a lot of football games here. And in my tenure, I think we're second or third in the ACC in wins in football. So, he can take that and put it where it belongs. But this is not a basketball school. This is a great, great school that has great sports, and football is one of them. And so, yeah, if he wants to come see me, we can talk about that. But, do your homework before you start talking shit.
So that's Dave Doeren after the game. And then Trayvon Miles over at ABC 11, he was at the Panthers game yesterday. Steve Smith happened to be at the Panthers game yesterday. He walked up to Steve Smith, and from Trayvon's tweet, Smith just told me that he and Dave have already talked, said Doeren invited him to watch a game from the NC State sideline. So be on the lookout for that, I guess. I hope it turns into some fantastic content. And that's what this is. It's fantastic content. We've had a season where I've made the argument, Joe, that Deion Sanders has unlocked that WWE showmanship out of some coaches. You referenced Ryan Day. I mean, for heaven's sake, Ryan Day was picking a fight with the old man. All right?
I'd prefer to pick a fight with Lou Holtz before I did with Mr. Ice Up. I would not start with Steve Smith.
I think Steve Smith probably respects that in the grand scheme of things. Like, oh, you talking shit back? All right, I'm with you on that. I don't think it's going to be blood and guts.
I would not step to Steve Smith.
So on the surface, I'm going to be upfront and say, I don't think it's that deep. I don't think it's that deep. I saw some Steve Smith, it hasn't even been a basketball school in 20 years. Like, yeah, whatever. Like, I'm doing the hand wank motion on YouTube. Like, you know what, guys? Just let him cook. Like, I don't want to go full Animal House because our younger audience has never seen Animal House, but it's very much like you know what? He's rolling. He's rolling right now. So I enjoy the content. I enjoy the fact that coaches are out there doing WWE. However, Joe.
Yeah, I actually do think this is a little bit deeper than you're making it because
at the surface, I think the Dave Doeren press conference after the fact probably means that there's probably something a little deeper here.
I think he's using Steve Smith as an avatar for the fans who are disgruntled with him.
Fair.
And the way that this season has gone, or maybe even that his tenure has gone. With the win on Saturday, he is now Dave Doeren has 77 career wins at NC State, which is the most, it tied for the most in school history. On the surface, you go, that is an impressive accomplishment. Anytime you were the school's leader in wins, you should make a big deal about that, right? It is the most NC State thing ever, though, that Earl Edwards has the record for the most wins at NC State, but has an overall losing record at NC State. Now, football was different back in the 60s, in the 17 years that Earl Edwards was there. First of all, they played an average of 10 games a year. And only 4 times in his career did they play 11 games in a season. Okay. So he played 173 games in 17 years. Dave's played 134 in 11. Earl Edwards, 77, 88, and 8 overall. Dave Doeren is 77, 57 overall. That's pretty good, Joe.
Yeah.
In the ACC, though, where Dave Doeren got his own math, he needs to go back and work on his homework. 40 and 46. So they're not second or third in his tenure in wins. Okay. Florida State, Clemson, Miami, maybe even Georgia Tech has them on that one. Pitt. So you have to look at that, and you go 40 and 46 in the ACC. And you look at the pie chart for the first time in the history of the Yellow Pad. I created a pie chart because of those 77 wins, 40 are against the ACC. That's 52%. 23 are against group of 5 schools. 23. So 30% are against group of 5 schools. Not great. 10 of those are against 1AA teams. Again, you're padding and getting to 77 in a way that is not exactly exemplary.
That's fine.
And that's fine. That's also part of the modern game. So on the plus side, you have the longevity. Getting to year 11 is an accomplishment. You have the budget constraints. NC State is the probably last amongst public schools in spending. You add in private schools. Yeah, they probably spend more than Boston College, but congratulations. So what he's doing is he's outperforming his financial resources.
Yes.
That is impressive.
Yes.
Lasting 11 years is impressive. However, here's the part where Dave is missing the boat a little bit. When you don't have a division title, when you don't have a conference title, when you don't have a trip to a major bowl game, when you haven't won 10 games in a season, which during his tenure, there's only 2 schools that haven't won 10 games in a season, NC State and Virginia. It regularly happens. People regularly win divisions. People regularly win conference.
NC State just hasn't.
And they haven't.
Yeah.
So when you don't have that,
Wake Forest won a division while this is all going on.
and had a 10-win season. When you don't have that, you look at it and you go, well, why would Steve Smith, who only tangentially probably pays attention to college football, know who you are?
Yeah, there's no reason to.
There's not a reason. You have to give people a reason to. Now, the other flip side of this is, I think Dave looks at this and goes, hey, I want respect for what I've done, which I think all of us can.
Everybody wants their flowers, man. Look,
everybody wants respect for the work that they've put in.
Yes.
But I think that's a natural human. Like, if you're Dave, you feel that.
You want to get to the heart of what Dave's problem is?
And I think you're about to.
Dave's problem is that what he's doing at NC State is what you would expect, and I use this phrase a lot. What you expect at about 98% of college football programs. All right. I'm not going to disagree with your point. You're absolutely right. At this point in a conference where everybody is at won a division, everybody's gotten to these marks, and you haven't. Yeah, man, that is a frustration point. But those are like little blips for an overall pattern. I think the bigger issue for Dave, and I think some of it is his own fault, because of NC State's messaging, is that what has NC State accomplished under Dave Doeren compared to his main comparison, North Carolina and Mack Brown, who gets all the flowers all the time, and in the grand scheme of things, this is a launching off point to get to North Carolina second. But ultimately, what has been accomplished at North Carolina? Yes, they won the last ever Coastal Division. Yes, they made it to a New Year's Six Bowl, where they got smoked
with 8 wins.
With 8 wins, no, that's the funny part about it. I forgot about the 8 wins.
They had
mark.
the same record as NC State.
So North Carolina has done less with more. You talk about budgets.
Right.
North Carolina has all the budgets that they would want. They've got great facilities. They have access to all the recruits. They have Mack Brown, who gets all the love, all the flowers, all the Miley Cyrus flowers, and Dave doesn't. Now,
so since Mac 2.0,
yeah,
Mac's ACC record 23-16, Dave's ACC record 20-18, head-to-head 2-2.
It gets back to the point that I've always made, that there's, as much as people want to make it out some difference between North Carolina and NC State, they're basically the same. You know that Pam?
Mac has not won 10 games, by the way.
You know the Pam office meme? Like, I want you to look at these two things, and she sees, well, they're the same image. Well, that's NC State and North Carolina, except that North Carolina gets talked about in one way, and NC State gets talked another. But you know why one school gets talked about one way and why the other school doesn't? That's a you problem. That's a messaging problem. NC State fucks up messaging all the time. And Dave, how many times have we talked about the two Daves? I want to apologize to Dave, actually, because a couple of weeks ago we talked about the Herb Sendek zone. Now, I think the larger point about the Herb Sendek zone is valid.
Yeah.
However, you know what Herb Sendek would never do? Herb
fights with Steve Smith.
He would never do that. And you know how many times, because you and I have been doing this long enough, how many times NC State fans say, my thought on Herb would have changed if he just would have blown up.
Given the butt slap too, Coach K.
Right. Right. Mark Gottfried will always say what you want about Mark Gottfried. He slapped Coach K's ass after he beat him. Herb never would have done that. So Dave gets this. He actually wins over some of the fan base. The people who ride for Dave look at that and they double down on riding for Dave because that's the kind of shit that NC State fans look for in a coach. Give them the red meat.
Mhm.
You can say it's contrived. You can say this and that. I don't give a crap. Ultimately, you got to speak to your constituency, and your constituency loves this, loves it. And they also love the fact that to get back to the point about the comparisons, they still find a way to beat North Carolina. North Carolina's supposed to have these generational QBs. North Carolina's got this window for a national championship, and they still go out there and they win with Ben freaking Finley as their quarterback. Okay? So I get where Dave's coming from. I actually think what Dave's doing is very relatable. As somebody who has had longevity, as somebody who has had to do more with less resources, and you don't get your flowers, you get your breaking point. You've seen me break. You've seen me break. So I do think that where Dave is coming from is more relatable. I don't think the fans are going to ultimately change their minds. The people who are done with Dave are done with Dave. But hey, man, I give him credit because sometimes you got to put your foot down and fight for yourself.
And to your point about longevity and avoiding the blips, that's why this season was so important.
Yes.
It couldn't be another 3-9. It couldn't be 4-8
And
either.
it's not going to be.
And I'm sure they'll find one more win on this schedule. Maybe it's that Wake in the Bizarro world, but it was important.
Do they have Keon Coleman?
It was important for them to not have another one of those 3-9 or 4-8 disasters. And by winning this game, even 5-7 to me, even just there's nothing wrong, in my opinion, for most programs. There's nothing wrong with your basement being 5 wins.
Well, every time we talk about college football, it's brought to you by Wings Over Raleigh. Wings Over Raleigh, Chapel Hill, Greenville. I had Wings Over on Friday. I went overboard. I got the tenders too to go with the wings.
Oh, Jackson loves the lobster roll chicken tenders.
I had the sweet Korean fire.
Ooh.
Try that one.
I had mango habanero yesterday.
Had that one too. And I went overboard. I went overboard. And one too many groove wagons.
So
as I was watching the Canes on Friday.
So should you. Wings Over, wingsover.com.
Yeah.
Order, go pick it up. There's free parking on Hillsborough Street. They're also in Greenville. Shouts to Sam from Sherpa, who helps us with our books.
I love it.
Her son is at ECU, and she was like, "Hey, there's a Wings Over Greenville.
Let's go."
And I said, "Yes, I have a special gift for you."
On a Wings Over spice level, from one little pepper on the menu to 3 peppers on the menu, where is Mack Brown on the fans are just kind of fed up with waves hands wildly of what's going on in Chapel Hill? Because what happened in Atlanta, it's funny. The Virginia loss was a shocker, a legit shocker, especially in how it happened, where Virginia just straight up beat UNC, no flukiness, whatever. Losing in Atlanta was so predictable that I thought it wouldn't happen. Like, no way. No way they back up what happened against Virginia.
Go
to
the week
Atlanta.
after.
The
Not
week
the week
after.
Yeah.
Because again, when you're looking at that 2-week stretch, you're going, yeah, they'll take care of Virginia. And then they'll lose in Atlanta because they always lose in Atlanta. And then we'll have this referendum. But to lose these 2 weeks in a row and nothing fluky about them, especially in the fourth quarter for Georgia Tech, where they straight up said, you can't stop us, went out there and ran it down their throat. And you have yet another historical rushing just disaster for North Carolina's defense, which was not supposed to be the case this year. That's the shock of the weekend. The fact that North Carolina's defense, which had been competent, and that's all you asked out of UNC, just be competent this year, has fallen off in such a way that it is truly shocking to me. And look, I love Tim Hasselbeck, West Durham, and Hasselbeck on the crew on Saturday night on the ACC Network. They do a wonderful job. But I absolutely disagree with what Hasselbeck was saying about North Carolina's defense in the second half. He kept saying they were gassed, they were gassed, they were gassed. They were not gassed. They were barely on the field in the third quarter. It's not that they were gassed. They were confused. They didn't know what to do. They looked unprepared 2 weeks in a row to stop the run. That's on coaching, to the point where Cedric Gray, after the game, confirmed what I thought. He straight up said, we were confused. And the coaching staff has to be able to read the room, Joe, when you are finding yourself in a battle and you can't stop them. You don't settle for a field goal, which they ultimately missed with about 7 minutes to go. Settling for a field goal only would have put you up 6. What about what had been happening in that game would lead you to believe that the defense could be trusted to make a stop and then get the ball back. So what did Georgia Tech do after they missed the field goal? They went right down the freaking field on basically 3 running plays and scored, and that was essentially your ball game. I was shocked by this, and it really does put a complete damper on Mack Brown's season and really the Mack Brown tenure the rest of the way. Again, I'm not saying they're going to lose out or whatever it is, but there's nothing about this North Carolina team after what looked like a pretty competent team that you can believe in. They're back out of the trust tree, man. It's wild to see.
Georgia Tech ran for 246 yards in the fourth quarter. In the fourth quarter.
Whew.
246 yards in the fourth quarter is more yards than they've given up all season in any game in the fourth quarter. Dante Smith, who no one should have ever heard of other than his family members, had 61 yards on 13 carries in the first 5 games of this football season. In the fourth quarter, Dante Smith had 14 carries for 140 yards. Dante Smith had appeared in 47 career games at Georgia Tech, had never rushed for 100 yards against a 1A team before. He had 178 yards in the football game.
Mm-hmm.
The wild thing to me is, once again, though, this wasn't an example of UNC, like you said, oh, they just didn't show up. No, sir.
No.
It was 42-32 in the football game.
Yeah.
42-32.
North Carolina.
You have to close these games out.
They can't close for whatever
reason.
reason.
It was 24-14 against Virginia in the second half. They lose. It's 42-32, and you let Dante Smith turn into Herschel Walker in the fourth quarter of this football game. Adrian Peterson, if you want me to update this. Derrick Henry, if you want me to update. I am with Mack Brown, who said he's never seen this before because first quarter, third quarter is Carolina. Then he said second, fourth quarter. And then he said in the fourth quarter, they were awful on defense. Again, why do we love Mack? Because he speaks the truth.
He speaks the truth.
He is the quote, I've never seen anybody just take it, hand it off, and run for 10 yards of crack. I haven't either.
And it happened to you.
But maybe I have Nebraska like in the 80s.
It happens a lot. By the way, one quick note about Georgia Tech and how weird all of this is.
Yes.
So this is from a way to worthy. Our guy, Brian Ives. Georgia Tech has 4 wins over AP-ranked teams since Brent Key was named interim head coach.
Why are we going Brian Ives? I got a yellow pad on this.
Ives points this out. The only teams with more are Alabama with 6, Notre Dame with 6, TCU with 6, and Georgia with 5. Yes, you brought out the yellow pad stat as it relates to what's going on here. And well, did I close it out? I might have closed it out. But I do want to bring up this yellow pad stat about good teams win. All right. And with the spread as well. Because what did North Carolina do again? What did they do again in their loss to Georgia Tech?
Double-digit favorite.
We joked about it on Thursday. We joked about it like,
not possible.
You checked. Like, oh, are they a double-digit favorite against Georgia Tech? Yes, it was 11.5, I think was where it closed. And then you even joked like, oh, well, it's really not going to happen. We were joking. So that's now 6 ACC opponents that North Carolina has been a double-digit favorite that they've straight up lost since 2027, if you want to include South Carolina, which is why you commend FSU and how they're handling their business this year. It's why you commend, heck, Virginia Tech's come out of nowhere after we wrote them off at the beginning of the season. Virginia Tech is actually low-key in the mix to make the ACC championship to take on Florida State, which is not something that we would have predicted ahead of time. And again, that gets back to the Georgia Tech thing where Brent Key's had some really weird games so far this season. Regardless, back to the defense. Mack Brown's never seen this before. I would suggest that Mack Brown go and subscribe to Daggum Box Scores. Chris over at Daggum Box Scores.
Are we getting the Baylor bowl game?
Yes, we are.
Oh, no.
Yes, we are.
Never want to go Baylor bowl game.
Because Chris put this together on Bless Your Chart. I highly recommend you subscribe to his newsletter because he has a bunch of fun charts and factoids. North Carolina's ugly rush defense, highest opponent yards per rush attempt in a single game since the 2009 season. You've got Rutgers 2014, where they got 8.1 yards per attempt. And then, yes, the Baylor game, where they had 645 yards on the ground. Not total offense.
With like their 5th string quarterback.
On the ground. You got Duke in 18. You got East Carolina in 14. You got Duke again in 15. And you got Georgia Tech in 14. But here we are, Georgia Tech 2023. That's the wild part. I've never seen this before. 7.25 yards per carry. So to answer Max Brown's question, it has happened before. It's happened to North Carolina a lot, and it actually goes beyond coaching tenures. It's not just a Mack problem. It's not just a Gene Chizik problem. as Chris pointed out, of the 11 times this has happened to North Carolina, Gene Chiswick's been the defensive coordinator 4 of those times. So this is a program problem for UNC, where they have all the talent in the world. And that's probably the biggest head scratcher and probably the focal point for UNC fans who are understandably frustrated with UNC, Joe. When we sat here, we wondered about their defensive issues coming out of that Orange Bowl win.
Mm-hmm.
The idea was it wasn't necessarily
Orange Bowl loss.
Oh, sorry, Orange Bowl loss. Thank you.
It's the mind trick.
The mind. No wonder Mack Brown. No wonder Dave Doeren gets
the
pissed.
mind control.
So coming out of that Orange Bowl season and all the optimism around North Carolina, the defense was we don't know.
The Orange Bowl that they went to because Notre Dame and North Carolina ended up in the college football playoff.
So the argument that was given to me when I kept pointing out something's got to be done about their defensive scheme, it was they don't believe it's a scheme problem. They believe that the talent will eventually catch up to where the defense is going to be good. That's what they were doubling down on. And for the first half of the season, it looked like that was finally paying off. But obviously over the last 2 weeks and what we can expect that over the next couple weeks, it's back to where we are with North Carolina. And it gets me to a larger question. What's next? You know, Mack Brown is not Dave Doeren in that he's young and he's got multiple years left and you kind of go with it. The Mack Brown 2.0 tenure was always going to be a very tight window to reset UNC's program. And for all the good that Mack Brown has done at North Carolina in resetting the program, getting interest back into it, you almost wonder, is this as far as you can take UNC with Mack Brown, both in the first version back in 1997 and what you've seen over the last couple of years, where you can have an NFL QB on your roster, you can have all this talent, and yet you don't have the ability to close. For all the faults that Dave Doeren is given, or people point out about Dave Doeren, the one thing I can always say about a Dave Doeren team is they're not glass-jawed. They might find some really shitty ways to lose a ball game, and they have, but they're not glass-jawed. For whatever reason, North Carolina, the minute somebody punches back, they don't know what to do. And you were like, oh, well, they were up 10 points. Oh, how does this happen?
In the game?
Well, once the other team senses it, they go after it. And North Carolina just goes into a shell, and it's the strangest thing to watch. And their season's only going to get more difficult from here. As much as Mack Brown lamented the end of the season schedule that featured Duke, Clemson, and NC State, he forgot that the Coastal always knocks. And this last 2 weeks is peak Coastal chaos, man, that gets UNC in the end. And it makes me wonder about big picture questions about North Carolina and what is next for the Tar Heels, because I think we kind of know what Mack Brown 2.0 is about. Talent, off-season discussions, getting people back in the building, all the warm fuzzies, but 2-2 against NC State the last 4 years, and more catastrophic losses that completely change the tenor of your season. That's Mack Brown 2.0 so far in Chapel Hill.
A lot of sizzle.
Yeah,
no
man.
steak.
No steak at all. No steak at all. What do? I don't know the answer to that. I just want to be abundantly clear. I'm simply saying this is kind of what it is with Mack Brown 2.0. And what do you do next?
You're slipping. That was a perfect seg to the Butcher's Market ad.
Well, hold on a second.
Where North Carolina can get their steaks.
Technically speaking,
Housekeeping.
ad isn't until the next break.
See, my timing's
But
off.
you know what? That's okay. That's okay. We can actually do the. But it was a good segue. I'm going to give you a lot of credit.
Okay.
I'm going to give you a lot of credit. So
Yes,
we're
that's growth.
going to go ahead and we're going to do the butchers right now instead of
Perfect.
the end. So I'll just go ahead and cross this off.
Okay.
So yeah, Butcher's Market, all the sizzle and
The-
actual meat.
The actual delivery, yes. Get those steak sandwiches. Get the meat. Get the homemade hot dogs. Get the chicken. Get the sides. You name it, they have it. Go check them out. They have great selection of everything you need for your tailgates, including the stuff how to cook. Doesn't get any better, man.
Yeah, they have they got the steak of the month. They've got appetizers. They got their whole spread. Look, with Thanksgiving right around the corner, man, this is a good way to entertain.
Oh no,
it's a good way to entertain.
Oh man,
Just saying, those grape leaves are money, if you ask me. Also, big thanks to State Farm. Matt Davis over at State Farm, InsureGarner.com. Check them out online. The OG Insurance is another website you can hit that takes you to the website, or you can just call them directly because there's an actual human there. 919-779-8277.
Yeah, save yourself some money. Figure out what you have for your home auto needs, insurance needs. Give Matt a call, 919-779-8277.
Couple other housekeeping. You can buy our t-shirts, breakingtea.com/OG. I'm actually rocking the hockey inspired one.
Saw somebody at the game on Thursday night with an Ovius and Giglio shirt. That shirt,
love it.
Stocked them on the concourse. It was great.
Love it. So yeah, go ahead on over to
an Ovius and Giglio shirt in the wild,
and not a family member wearing it.
Nope.
Hey man, like people are actually buying them. So again, go check that out. breakingtea.com/OG. And one other bit of housekeeping. I was watching the game on the CW, and we did not get an F Boy Island read.
I know. I had to go get my own.
So you went up, you were at the game, and you visited our friends, Tom Wormy, James Bates. Bates is the one who does the F Boy Island read.
Yep.
You gave him a shirt.
I did.
You gave him a shirt. So here we go.
Where is the F Boy Island promo?
Yeah, how about that? We show up at the truck on Friday, all excited after living a dream all week long, and there's no promo. There's no promo for F Boy Island. It's not okay.
It's in our
Why
hearts.
do you keep saying it's okay?
It's in our hearts.
It's not okay.
There's other good shows. The Swarm is good.
I watched F Boy Island this week.
Did you?
Yeah. It's the
Just to
second
be
time.
ready.
The second time I've seen it, just to be ready.
Yeah.
And all for naught. Well, it wasn't, because I feel like I got smarter. Did I say smarter?
No.
Smarter.
Yes,
More smart.
yes. Good
We
show.
watched it.
But like the worm, you love Ovius and Giglio, the podcast.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
5 stars only.
Well, that's why I'm wearing. That's why I'm wearing the shirt.
Positive vibes. Positive vibes.
F boys only.
Freddie in the background.
Freddie's just not a lot of, yeah, cool.
I saw the worm, and I'm like, he's like, come on over to the booth, and I'm over there. And then the other producer was like, we have like 3 minutes. Because I'm like, we can be quick. Don't worry, we got this,
dude. Don't F with TV producers, man. Do not F with TV.
We had
producers.
fun. It was.
Oh man, the Panthers won, Joe. Let's go.
I told you they weren't going 0-17.
You know what? I can say this definitively. What does the win mean for the
Bryce
Carolina
Young
Panthers?
is definitely better than CJ Stroud now. Yes,
Clearly, he got the QB
Obviously.
wins, right? So what does this mean for the Panthers? I'll tell you what it means for the Panthers. They won't go 0-17. So that's about it. That's all I can really give you. It's great that they won. But there was a lot of the same issues for the Panthers in this game over Houston. The offensive line continues to be a problem. Wide receivers still dropping the ball. But you know what? You're probably wondering, man, why are you hushing the vibe? What happened to the positive vibes only? So here is Bryce Young after the game. It's funny. I watched the YouTube press conference from the Panthers website, and he got to the podium, he was all smile. I have not seen Bryce Young smile since training camp, dude. It's been that kind of season for Bryce Young. So to see him at the podium, all smiles, it was good. That was good to see.
Bryce, how would you describe your kind of reaction to this? Is this relief, excitement?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an exciting feeling. As we know, wins aren't easy to come by in this league, and it's great to get on the board, great to get one. And right now, obviously, we're fresh, everyone's enjoying it, and we're super happy about it. But it's a lot of excitement. But at the same time, right now is the time for us to enjoy it and have fun. But tomorrow we come back and watch the film. And there's a lot of stuff that we still can get better at, still can improve at. And, we don't want to be the team that got a win on was week 8. This is, we have to keep building off of this. And that's a long journey. That's a long road. And that's going to come with the work that comes throughout the week. And we continue to build off of. So right now, a lot of excitement. But, we're going to have to turn the page on this. And just like any other week, make sure we keep getting better.
Win or lose for Bryce Young, the kid is absolutely not the kid. He's a grown ass man. He is absolutely right on point with the coach.
We could use some of his optimism too. Yeah.
You're right. You're right. Here's Frank Reich after finally breaking the losing streak, getting their first win of the season.
These guys have been great. You want to see the results. We know that we're building the results, but you just need to see them at some point. And I don't think the guys have wavered. That's to their credit. But this is going to be a great win to build confidence off of. And that's a good football team. They don't make many mistakes. They've been playing good team football. That team makes you beat them. And I thought we did that today. We went out and proved we were the better team, and we didn't beat ourselves, and we put our best football on the field for 60 minutes and came away with a win.
I feel like there's a theme of the day of not beating yourself, right? We started talking
Something to
about,
that.
With NC State, they didn't beat themselves. They cut down on the mistakes. Carolina Panthers, which have had a lot of procedural penalties this year, a lot, right out of the gate, they put themselves back, but they did cut it down. But again, right out of the gate, they get the kickoff and they already have to work from a long field position because of a special teams mistake. And then, you get to drop past everything else. But North Carolina, right, for the Tar Heels, as we were just talking about, reason why they find themselves in this situation is because they continue to make mistakes. They have the penalties that start racking up at inopportune times. Special teams breakdown, missed field goal, all those types of things. So there is something to not beating yourself. Do I think this is some sort of inflection point for the rest of the Carolina Panthers season? Not necessarily, because a lot of their physical issues are still there. And I am curious to see how the Carolina Panthers address any of this season with the trade deadline this week. I think it's Tuesday afternoon. Are the Panthers actually going to be moving? I know Frankie Louvu has been a revelation this season. Are they actually going to trade him away? Brian Burns, are you going to give him a big time contract, or are you going to use him as some sort of asset to replenish your draft assets? And then obviously, as you mentioned, you've got salary cap space that you can work with to somewhat get better. But
they got to figure out a way to get out of Miles Sanders' contract.
There's that.
Right
He's
now.
been useless. It was more, running back by committee in this game, which, okay, fine. If Miles Sanders isn't going to give it to you, you might as well try things else, something else. I mean, maybe there's optimism with Thomas Brown and the play calling. Okay, that's cool. Whatever.
They scored 15 points, Joe.
I understand that, but they won. So therefore, it was all Thomas Brown's credit, Joe. It was all Thomas Brown. Okay. Here's Frank Reich on how this matters in terms of building going forward, or if it changes anything that they finally won.
Didn't expect it to be, this date. Did not expect it to be this date, but it is what it is. We're not looking back. No regrets. It's just part of the season, and you look forward to the next week. And for me personally, I'm going to stay day to day and try to continue to get better. We come in here tomorrow, watch the film, look at it, be critical as coaches and as players, figure out how we can get better. We need to be a team that in the second half of the year that we just get a little bit better every week. And if we do that, then good things will happen.
So again, that's Frank Reich after the game. I guess the other thing that I can say that's a positive for this going forward, I can say definitively, I guess it helps you when it comes to not giving the Chicago Bears another top pick in the draft, maybe. So
it's good not to have 0 in the win column. Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
Is that the best thing we can say about the Panthers this week?
Yeah.
All right. You know what? Positive vibes always. Speaking of vibes, head on over to Graffiti in downtown Cary. Every time we talk about the Panthers, it's brought to you by Graffiti. They got an incredible bourbon selection. Tuesdays, break-even night at Graffiti. Sundays, they got great specials for football. They have all the games on. Again, those bourbon specials are top-notch. You cannot find these bourbon specials anywhere else. It's incredible what they're doing over at Graffiti. What's not incredible is the current state of QB play in the NFL. And I think my shoulder shrug reaction to what I've seen out of the Panthers is it doesn't change any of the conversation we've really had about them this year. So yes, good to finally get the win. Great that for 1 week, we're not sitting here going, is Bryce Young a bust or not? Because he got the QB wins over CJ Stroud. But what's going on with the Panthers is actually indicative of what's going on in the rest of the NFL. Did you see all the quarterbacks that had to play this weekend?
Right. You could have a quiz right now.
If I told you Tommy DeVito got game reps, he actually played, you were like, who, what?
Yeah, I don't recognize him when you don't call him by his full name.
That is.
Which is poor Tommy DeVito. Tommy DeVito. Former Syracuse quarterback who literally just got his insides just scrambled and his brain knocked in at Syracuse while their offensive line completely neglected his personal health.
So Tommy DeVito had to go out there and try to win a football game for the New York Giants. They ended up losing in overtime. And Tommy DeVito actually gets to a larger question that I have about NFL coaches and front offices. Why do you sign a quarterback to your roster you don't trust to throw the ball? Is that some NFL galaxy brain I'll never understand? Like you feel that he's good enough to make the roster, to be elevated to play in a backup situation. And yet, you don't want him throwing it down the field?
I will give you $100 American right now if you could name where Minnesota's new quarterback went to school.
Who is the new quarterback? Now that Kirk Cousins tore his Achilles. Who is it?
His name is Jaron Hall.
No, it's not. You're making that up.
I am not making it up.
Where'd he play? I don't know, some FBS school. or FCS school, I should say. Where do you play? Troy?
He shares the same alma mater as Zach Wilson.
Oh, okay. I see. Speaking of Zach Wilson, can't kill Zach Wilson.
Nope. He's a star now compared to the rest of these guys.
Although
Aaron Rodgers is out there dropping back now too, Joe.
So what's funny about that is I was watching the end of that Jets game. Everybody in New York has made up their minds about Zach Wilson. They're eating him alive. And yet, the Jets still keep finding ways to win. And I think the best reaction was, yeah, the best thing you can say about the Jets win is that they were just playing the Giants. Like, you should win that game. Man, put some respect.
It's a miracle comeback.
It was a miracle comeback. Put some respect on Zach Wilson's name. No, but I'm all kidding. I'm not trying to act as though Zach Wilson's some sort of, great second coming of quarterbacks where he's going to be the comeback player of the year. Zach Wilson's just a dude. He's okay. He's whatever. I think he's an avatar that people want to bang on because, oh my God, we could have had Aaron Rodgers. And I keep telling you that the greatest thing that ever could have happened to Aaron Rodgers this season is that freaking injury, because the Jets are not a good team. Overall, they're not a good team. And Aaron Rodgers would be having some of these frustrations, and they'd be eating Aaron Rodgers alive with some of these games. But Zach Wilson's the easy target. But yeah, man, what I love about the Jets is that they're rolling for the camera at all times. It was raining at MetLife. And, Robert Saleh has this routine. He's got this ritual where he goes down to the field. He was still jogging down there in the rain. Got to make sure the camera's rolling. Same thing with Aaron Rodgers. Got to make sure the camera's there. So you see me dropping back, and that leaves his boy, Pat McAfee, to go on social media going, this man and science are an amazing thing. Buddy, he's just dropping back. Like, why do we got to do this for Aaron Rodgers? He's not playing this year. He's not playing. He's not playing this year. He's not playing this year. And if he does, he's going to get hurt again, and that'll be the end of his career. But yeah, the Kirk Cousins injury completely changes everything ahead of the trade deadline, because a lot of people were wondering what they were going to do with Kirk Cousins and his contract. Was there a team that was a quarterback away? Like, for instance, do you think pre-injury that Kyle Shanahan would have appreciated having Kirk Cousins on the roster for this 49ers squad? Or is the bloom simply off the rose for the San Francisco 49ers now that they've lost 3 in a row? They've had injuries starting to pile up, and Brock Purdy, again, is just a dude. He's just a guy.
I don't think their offense is the problem. We saw this in the playoffs last year, the Niners, when Purdy actually got hurt. People think they're like the 85 Bears on defense. They're not. They're just not.
Yeah, that's fair.
So you still have to win football games the same way as everybody else. You're not actually going to shut people out.
Meanwhile, you got Tyson Bagent in Chicago with Justin Fields hurt. Will Levis had to come in Tennessee. So now all of a sudden we have the
mayonnaise man.
Here we go. 4 touchdowns for the Tennessee Titans. On the other side of that, it looks like Arthur Smith is finally done with the Desmond Ridder experiment. He got benched. I think
our guy, Taylor Heineke, who should be, how many different places?
You and I,
if he just stayed in the Panthers, like there's an alternate universe where he's like,
you and I were actually
perfectly acceptable quarterback.
You and I were having this conversation the other day, trying to remember where Heineke was. For some reason, I thought he was still in Washington, but no I was wrong. Speaking of Washington, you know how we started this conversation with poor Tommy DeVito? Man, poor Sam Howell. Sam Howell's having flashbacks to bad offensive line play when he was at UNC. Look, there's a feast or famine with Sam Howell. I still maintain in Washington what Sam Howell is doing is very much what you expect out of Sam Howell. It's just Washington's not a good team. And Sam's giving you a chance to win, but there's a lot of bad that comes along with that. He holds the ball, just like he held the ball at UNC. He takes sacks that he probably shouldn't take, but he also can break out some plays. So Desmond Ridder is benched. Meanwhile, but again, Atlanta is still kind of the cream of the crop in the NFC South, which adds to the frustration level if you're a Panthers fan. And then, of course, you got the Patriots falling back down to earth. The Dolphins taking care of business in a very kind of way against the Patriots. And you got the
whoa.
You got the Mac Jones discourse.
Don't you try to yada the Dolphins.
I'm yada-yadaing the Dolphins.
Don't you try
I'm yada-yadaing them.
Oh, man.
I'm sorry.
They popped, man. They did it again.
It's easy to do against the Patriots.
Oh, come on.
That's easy to do against the Patriots.
No, it's not.
But it is interesting, the difference between how we talk about the San Francisco 49ers, who had another clunker and they got injuries piled up, versus what the Kansas City Chiefs did, where the Chiefs, I guess this comes with reputation and
they've won 2 rings. So
the Chiefs have a game. It's when the Chiefs have a game every season. That's a clunker. Every season. Where they're just
it's usually the Chargers that they lose to.
You're just like,
or the Raiders. The Raiders like to pop them too.
Like you woke up on the wrong side of the bed today. You just don't.
Was Taylor Swift there? Unlikely, right?
I don't think she was there for that game.
Yeah, Mr. Unlimited.
I feel like I would have
had
seen
3 touchdown passes.
I know. I feel like I would have seen more clips of Taylor Swift if she was there, so I didn't see any. So I'm going to assume that she was not there. And yes, Denver Broncos off the schneid.
Yada, 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 and the Dolphins, who the difference between the Dolphins and the rest of the NFL is they have guys who can pop plays.
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill, 42-yarder. Jalen Waddle, 31-yarder. But you're like, no,
we know that about them.
When they play bad teams.
We know that about them. We know that about the Dolphins. You know how I feel about them. They are an exotic car.
Are going to be in the Super Bowl.
No, it's going to be the Eagles.
And so are the 49ers.
The way, did you see the Eagles going back to the Washington Philly game? And we have a big, Eagles Dallas Cowboys game coming up.
Yes.
People are yada yada yadaing the Cowboys, by the way.
The Cowboys are a every other week proposition.
Yes. Do you see the fake tush push? The fake brotherly shove? That's sneaky.
Getting smart.
They're getting smart about those types of things. But anyway, to close the conversation on the Dolphins, it's not that I'm yada yada yadaing them.
You did.
It's that I know what their flaws are, and they're an exotic sports car that's going to leak oil at one point when they play a defense that can actually get them off schedule.
Who plays defense?
It's like, look at my sweet exotic car. Is that a speed bump? Oh no, I just tore out the transmission by going over the speed bump because my car's too low.
What was the thing you said?
The torque bar, which is a real thing, by the way. I Googled it. Torque bar is a real thing, Joe.
The torque bar.
Goodness gracious. Check out Hometown Realty, myhtr.com. These are brokers all across North Carolina. I see ads for websites telling you what your value is. These are algorithms. These are not real world scenarios. This is not understanding the market that you're in. That's what Hometown Realty can do when you work with them. When it comes to selling a house, you're not leaving money on the table. You're getting the maximum value because there's people out there who want to buy your house, man.
Yeah, real people, real agents, real experience, real expertise. That's Hometown Realty. And the best part, go to the website, myhtr.com. Could not be more simple or efficient to use. Shout out to the mortgage calculator. 60% of their business, new homes.
Mm-hmm.
You want to get it in, got to have the experts. That's Hometown Realty, myhtr.com.
Also, big thanks to Whitaker and Hamer. Let's say you just bought a house and you got a ticket to close. They can handle that. You find yourself in a situation where you had to refinance, even if rates are high. Again, they can close that stuff out for you. Or you might have yourself a traffic violation like Joe Giglio, and he's got to do some community service.
I made it to and from Charlotte.
Hey!
Without incident. I'm very proud of myself.
Let's go.
But yes, you still need the help of Whitaker and Hamer. WH.lawyer.
And also big thanks to Mosquito Authority, Pest Authority. You bought a house. You've closed on said house.
Got to protect that thing,
now
man.
You got to protect the house. Look, we got 360 deals here, folks. We take care of all angles. Mosquito Authority, Pest Authority can handle that for you. They did the mosquito treatments for me all summer and into the fall. And of course, now that we are entering the winter, you got critters are going to come in for warmth. You need the barriers, all that stuff. Mosquito Authority and Pest Authority can handle it.
Go to bugsbite.com. Punch in that zip code. Get yourself some deals. Get some coupons. Save yourself some money. Bugsbite.com. Big shouts to Hayes Lancaster, the OG.
Next topic, please.
So on Friday night, I was hanging out with neighbor Rick and went to Wings Over after Jacob's hockey practice. Got a whole bunch of stuff. 25 wings. I think we got 12 tendies. The garlic Parmesan tots are always money. Shout out to Riley, Groove Wagon. Dropped by the Peace Street Market to get my Magnifico. And I settled in for the night. We're watching some Canes hockey. It's, I'm just blowing off steam from a busy week. So I just enjoyed the Canes game from the perspective of hat trick for Tavo. Hey, Andrei Svechnikov is back. Good to see them looking like themselves from the third period of the Kraken game.
Yes.
And then taking absolute care of business against a bad San Jose team. So that was fun to watch. But Joe, you were working.
Well, first of all, Canes back above 500. So our long national nightmare.
Everything is right in the world.
Is over. But yeah, Teravainen now 7 goals on the year. That's kind of crazy. He had 12 all of last year. Now he's got 7.
We talk about, I know you had retweeted the clip, the YouTube interview we did with Tom Dundon, owner of the Carolina Hurricanes. But when we sat in the beer cave with him at Breeze Through, he was very high on Tavo turning things around. And so far, that's absolutely paid out. I guess their little stats, their their predictive measures are way better than ours, Joe.
Yeah. Rod Brindamore went full Dean Smith in the postgame on Friday.
Please explain.
Forever, it's a basketball points per possession. That was Ken Palm has obviously kind of popularized that, but forever that was a Carolina thing.
Yeah.
And it was actually Roy Williams' one of his jobs was to keep track of points per possession. Okay. Back in the day when he was just a student at North Carolina. So Dean Smith was so far ahead of everybody else. Also, Dean Smith would keep track of assists even when you went to the free throw line. So he would often in post game say, wow, that's not the way that we keep track of stats. Like he was very big on how we keep track of stats. So when Rod Brindamore said this, he was asked by Corey Laviolette about, just kind of getting some wins and playing more like themselves.
Hold on a second. Let me hit play.
Do you feel like things are rounding in the right direction now after that rough start?
Well, you look at the start, the wins and stuff obviously weren't there, but it wasn't as bad as everybody was, freaking out about. You look at a lot of the metrics the way we look at it, and it wasn't all that off. It was just we weren't, getting a timely save like we got tonight, and just a couple little things were definitely off. But overall, the effort was there, and tonight I just think it was more. We got the big saves when we needed, and other than that, I didn't see a ton of difference to our game.
Giving up 13 goals in 2 games is not the way that the Canes play.
I'm not sure
what metric.
I'd love to know. I would love to know what metric he's talking about. We're like, our stats shows,
I get it.
Is that some Dabo energy?
There was, but Freddie played well in the second half of basically that game against Seattle on Thursday, and then Antti Raanta really was good. He only had 20 saves, but he really was good. There were a lot of quality chances by San Jose, but once he said that, I'm like looking around the room trying to find anybody who was here when Dean was here. There was nobody there, so I was like, man, what? The one time I need Chipper or Bob Holliday to be in the game to be like, hey man, he just went full Dean Smith.
I love that.
But Antti Raanta did come up with. Luke and I went over and talked to him. Like, I'm still trying to figure out what he was trying to say to us because there were some pearls of wisdom there about. When it's hard, it's not easy. And when it's not easy, it's hard. And we were both like, and Luke was like, is that a Finnish saying?
Let me hear the clip here.
Sometimes you go rough patches, but if it would be easy, it wouldn't be hard. So
it would be easy, it wouldn't be hard.
Yeah. That makes sense to me.
So now when it's hard, it's not easy. So
when it's hard, it's not easy.
Not easy.
So I think
Finnish saying.
I don't know.
All right, hold on. Okay,
I love the locker room.
Hold on. All right.
Sometimes you go rough patches, but if it would be easy, it wouldn't be hard. So now when it's hard, it's not easy. So I think
Finnish saying.
I don't know.
I'd say put that on a shirt, but
now Luke,
there might be a double entendre there.
I mean, Luke is learning Finnish.
I know.
So props to him on when the locker room is 50% Finnish. What are you going to do? I'm embellishing. I think what Raanta is trying to say, the old Father Finn is trying to say, is that we know it's going to be hard.
Yeah,
it's not supposed to be easy.
If it was that easy, everyone could do it.
Exactly. I think that's what he's trying to say. Does that work? Are we workshopping that?
There's still a shirt to be made there somewhere.
All right,
we got to get smarter.
Let's get out of here on some Hey Joe questions. It's brought to you by Oakwood Pizza Box. It's Monday, not open today.
Yeah.
So just letting you know.
Shouts to Chung Easy, man. I was over there on Friday with Chung. We had a good time.
So I have a Hey Joe question for you.
Okay.
Hey Joe, was Pat Narduzzi technically right when he talked about replacing players and not doing a good job with that?
Dave Doran's picking fights with his fans, through Steve Smith, and Pat Narduzzi's just picking fights with his players.
Yeah, man,
it's
pretty wild. So, you had put a yellow pad stat out in terms of NFL draft picks that Pitt has put out. Pitt's been producing draft picks, man.
Pumping out the pros, man. Yeah. He's not wrong. Like he's all Dabo could probably do the same thing. Like, hey guys, like we have to replace a bunch of NFL guys. Can't do it every year.
You can't do it all the time. And to your point, he seems to have ticked off a good chunk of his players.
Yeah.
This is from Cody Nagel over at 24/7 Sports. If I can, I'm doing this on YouTube, folks, on the StreamYard. So hold on a second. I got one too many things going on here. So I pull up this tweet. Corey says, well, that's one way to lose the locker room. And it's all this reaction from a variety of their players. And people have tried to say that he was taken out of context. The original reporter had just kind of done a summary on Twitter.
Yeah.
No, this was not a context issue. I understood what
the original quote tweet that the players were reacting to wasn't the full comment, but ultimately you're saying I've lost a bunch of good players and now I don't have good players.
And but he said that's on us. Like it's on us, not replacing with the guys. We got to do a better job coaching. But yes, to your point, it truly still is. Yeah, man. We didn't replace dudes with dudes.
Yeah.
And where Pat Narduzzi ultimately messed up is he can feel that way, but he didn't follow his own advice, Joe. What the hell is that blue negative thoughts vase for if you're not going to use it?
Just take it and throw it in the vase, man.
You
That's
might
all.
feel that way. Write it down, crumple it up, put it in the vase.
Dear vase, this roster stinks. Just
put it in the vase. I don't know why that's
Dear
hard.
roster, I miss Servachi.
All right. I am the Goomy. Hey, Joe, does the fact that Gibson consistently came out in cover 0 on 3rd and medium against Klump say more about the confidence he has in RDBs, the lack of dudes at Klump, or Klubnik's ability to handle a blitz?
Yeah, I succinctly answered this one with both.
I think all of the above.
Yep.
All of the above on that one. And again, that gets back to
jarring, man.
It really is weird
to watch Clemson not have a running back or receiver that has any kind of wiggle.
Really is weird. From our guy Nation. Love that dude. Big UNC fan. He's like, yeah, New Year's 6 bowl and a division title more than Dave Doeren has accomplished in Raleigh in 11 years.
New Year's 6 bowl again.
Yeah.
Gigantic asterisk. Gigantic.
But it's there. They did it.
I know.
Although I also
they
added,
literally had the same season.
I also added that don't forget that Mack has helped salvage NC State seasons the last 2 years.
Fair.
He's very generous. Very generous over at Chapel Hill. Of course, Dimitri, our guy, coming in saying ACC football pissing contests are so cute. Which, Dimitri, I get what you're saying. They're our pissing contests. It's how we find entertainment. But the bill's going to be coming due at Alabama soon. Okay.
God, I really hope he doesn't steal one this year.
He might.
Really hope he doesn't.
He might. But here's the thing. We knew what Alabama was before Nick Saban. And we have a good idea of what Alabama can be after Nick Saban.
Yep.
And heck, Kirby Smart has obviously been turning
especially
things around.
since now that Dat Boy does not seem to be the Roy Williams succession plan.
My goodness. From our guy Owen, totally underrated football game day snack, Swedish meatballs. Bonus, you get to talk like the Swedish chef when you're cooking. Bork, bork, bork. Come here, chickie. Pulls aside a loaded 45.
He's a nut.
Love Owen. Are Swedish meatballs an underrated football food?
I'm not a fan. So
really,
yeah.
What about but what about just cocktail meatballs, like in a marinara or like a barbecue sauce?
Yeah.
No, not feeling it.
I have a very specific taste in meatballs.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And lastly, from Victor, a fellow pirate, clearly. My 25-year-old son is getting into vinyl, looking to get into a turntable for Christmas. If I remember correctly, you are also into vinyl. Any recommendation on a turntable? Thanks for your input and advice. 2 thoughts on this as we get out of here. The first one is if you're looking for an entry-level turntable, I suggest Audio Technica. They've been around for a long time. They have ones that have built-in Bluetooth capabilities. So if you want to like go to your sound systems and I know vinyl with Bluetooth capabilities, mind blown, right? Regardless. Audio Technica makes really good entry-level to high-end turntables with easily replaceable parts.
I just want to hear the needle, though. I just want to hear the... Yeah.
It's a good stuff.
That's a good ASMR.
If you want something that is vintage from like back in the day, like my setup, I have a Sony setup that's essentially late 70s, early 80s time frame Sony.
Yeah, you're just missing the fuzzy green carpet.
I really am. Then gratuitous plug for our friends over at Sound Off in downtown Raleigh. Aaron and Anna do a great job. Anna's helped us with a lot of our graphics. And Aaron loves rebuilding old stereo equipment. Like that's his thing. He's fixed a couple of my things up. Although I think I broke him on cassette decks. I gave him like the ultimate challenge and he was really frustrated with my cassette deck, but that's another story altogether. Anyway, if you're looking for an old turntable, they have a lot of refurbished ones there. Really good stuff and old speakers to go with it. So by all means, go check them out over at Sound Off. That's going to wrap it up for today's show. Enjoy your community service, Joe. Brylo's going to hang out with us. We'll see you then.